He is a pathetic, ugly loser who can't even look girls in the eye. But one day, he got transferred to an all-girls high school for being the only man capable of piloting the Infinite Stratos. Now, he can clap any girl he wants because they all want to marry him.
You know they're touching me, right?
Ichika sat in his classroom feeling totally confused. He looked around and realized something strange. Every single student, staff member, and teacher in the academy was a girl. Not a single boy in sight, except for him. He was the only guy there. Then, a teacher with massive cannons named Maya walked in and welcomed the class, telling them they were now official students of the Rizz Academy, a boarding school where students must complete 3 years to graduate. Ichika felt super awkward. All the girls in class stared at him ready to take his cucumber. Then, he spotted a familiar face, Houki, his childhood friend he hadn't seen in 6 years. But when their eyes met, she quickly turned away. He wondered if she was mad at him. Before he could think too much, Maya called on him to introduce himself. Trying to look calm, he stood up and said his name. But he could feel himself getting nervous. Everyone just silently stared, making him even more anxious. He didn't want them to think he was some ugly virgin loser. Suddenly, a woman stormed in and slammed his head down on the desk. It was his older sister, Chifuyu. He was shocked to see her here since she barely came home because of her secretive job. She introduced herself to the class as their homeroom teacher and trainer for the next year. The girls were thrilled. Turns out, she was super popular. Annoyed, Chifuyu called them all dumb and even called them a bunch of meathead, especially since her little brother was one of them. When Ichika casually called her by her first name, she smashed his head again and told him to call her teacher. The girls whispered among themselves, saying she was the reason Ichika was even allowed at the academy. They believed she helped him get into the school and gave him permission to use the Infinite Stratos. Chifuyu told the class they'd need to master all the basics in 6 months. Ichika remembered that she used to be a top as pilot for Japan and won nearly every tournament. But then she suddenly quit and vanished from the spotlight. Next, Meyer explained what the Rizz actually was. It was a high-tech suit created in Japan a decade ago to help astronauts move better in space. But after certain global restrictions and a military ban, it got repurposed into equipment for sports. That led to the creation of Rizz-based competitions, and this academy was built to train students to become his pilots. Ichika still didn't get why only girls could use these suits, and why he was the only guy who could. As he sat there, totally lost in his thoughts, all the girls started whispering about him. Some were thinking about approaching him, but he just wished someone would rescue him from the awkwardness. Then Houki walked up and asked to speak to him alone. They left the class and walked in silence. Even after 6 years, she barely said a word. Ichika remembered hearing in the news that she won the National Kendo Championship. He told her he saw the article, and she looked a little embarrassed that he still remembered. Meanwhile, some girls spied on them from a distance and looked disappointed that the two already knew each other. Back in class, Ichika realized he had a mountain of stuff to learn. The textbook was huge, and he couldn't understand anything. When Maya checked on him, he admitted he didn't get any of it. Chifuyu asked if he had studied the book before entering the academy. Apparently, it was required. Ichika nervously confessed he got rid of it by mistake. She smacked him with the book and told him she'd give him a new copy, but he'd have to memorize it all within 1 week. He panicked, thinking there's no way he could do that in such little time. Later, a blondie named Cecilia came up to him asking to talk in private. He didn't react, and she got pissed, acting like he should be honored she even spoke to him. Ichika said he had no idea who she was. She introduced herself as the top scorer in the entrance exams and England's as representative. When she tried to sound superior, Ichika asked what it meant to represent a country using an Rizz. She mocked him for being ignorant and bragged that only elite people like her get chosen. Before she walked off, she said she expected a lot from him as the only guy who could use an Rizz. Then she arrogantly added that if he ever needed help, she'd be generous enough to teach him, only if he begged. She bragged nonstop about her test scores and said she was the only one strong enough to beat the instructor. But Ichika calmly told her he also beat the instructor. Cecilia got angry that her victory wasn't unique anymore and stormed off. Later that day, Ichika headed to his dorm, only to find a bunch of curious girls secretly following him. When he entered his room, he noticed someone was already in the shower and it's not a boy. Before he could leave, a girl came out wrapped in a towel. It was Houki. They both freaked out. She asked what he was doing in her room, and he wondered the same. She picked up a wooden sword and chased him out. When she finally let him back in, she was dressed. She demanded an explanation. Ichika said he didn't know they'd be roommates. Houki got suspicious and accused him of requesting this setup on purpose. He denied it, but she swung the sword again. He tried to defend himself, grabbed a practice sword, but a plot armor was hanging from the end. She snatched it from him in embarrassment and hurled the sword at him. The next morning, they ate breakfast together, though she was clearly still mad. When Ichika called her by her first name, she snapped even more. Some other girls sat near them, noticing Ichika ate a lot more food than they did. Houki finished her meal quickly and left. The girls asked if he and Houki were dating. He explained they were just childhood friends, used to be in the same kendo club, and went to school together until the 4th grade. He barely remembered their past clearly anymore. Chifuyu suddenly interrupted breakfast, yelling at them to hurry up. She was also the dorm supervisor and warned that anyone late to school would have to run 10 laps. Then she made an announcement. She would choose a class representative to compete in the upcoming interclass league. This rep would also attend student council and committee meetings. When she asked for nominations, every girl in class chose Ichika. He was stunned. Before he could say anything, Cecilia objected loudly, saying a boy shouldn't represent the class. She started ranting about her noble background again. Ichika got mad and said England wasn't that special. Cecilia took it personally and challenged him to a duel. If she won, he'd become her slave. Ichika boldly said he'd beat her, but the whole class laughed at him. No one believed he stood a chance against a girl using his suit. Still, he didn't back down. Chifuyu said the match would happen in the academy's training ring in a few days. A few days later, Chifuyu told Ichika that his suit wasn't ready yet. He'd have to wait for a special one to be made just for him. The girls were shocked that a first-year student like him was getting a custom suit. Some even whispered that maybe the government was involved somehow. Ichika, who had no clue how big of a deal this was surprised by all the attention. Cecilia stepped up, clearly annoyed, and sarcastically said she was glad he didn't understand how rare that was. That's when he realized she had her own personal suit too, since she was a national representative. She explained that only 467 suits existed in the entire world, and only a handful of top elites ever got their own personalized ones. Another girl added that the core tech behind the suits hadn't even been made public yet. Right now, only one person in the world, Professor Tabane, had built all of them. That's when Ichika figured it out. Houki's older sister was the genius who made these suits. No other scientist had been able to copy her core designs, which is why companies were still experimenting and offering deals to develop what little they had. Chifuyu explained that normally, only rich people or nobles got custom suits. But in Ichika's case, it was different. She arranged for him to receive a special one so they could collect data on how it worked. When she mentioned that Tabane was Houki's sister, the entire class exploded with questions. Where was she now? Did Houki know? But Houki snapped and made it clear she didn't want to talk about her sister. Ichika started to think maybe something bad had happened between them. After that, Maya began explaining more about these suits in class. She said they had an energy shield to protect the user, and even had a form of built-in AI with a bit of personality. This let the pilot and the suit bond over time. Ichika just sat there, totally confused, not understanding a word, while Houki calmly took notes like it was nothing. After class, Ichika asked Houki to eat lunch with him and invited a few other girls to come along. 3 said yes, but Houki stayed seated. He pulled her up by the arm, but she shoved him back hard and was shocked when he actually fell. The girls who agreed to lunch quietly walked away after that awkward moment. Still, Ichika dragged Houki along anyway. At the food court, she still seemed irritated. Ichika asked her if she could teach him how his worked since he didn't want to lose to Cecilia. Houki told him he got himself into that mess and shouldn't expect her to fix it. But after a bit of begging, another girl showed up offering to help instead. That made Houki jealous, and to Ichika's surprise, she agreed to train him after all. The senior student tried to one-up Houki by saying she had more experience, but Houki reminded her that she was Tabane's sister, which gave her deeper knowledge. The girl got annoyed and left. Later, Houki brought Ichika to the training area. After just a short workout, he was already tired. She sarcastically asked if he'd been doing anything for the past 3 years, and he admitted he was shacking his cucumber. Houki told him she'd train him for 3 hours every day after school. Ichika didn't have a choice. He had to follow her plan. As training ended, Houki wondered if she'd been too hard on him and thought about how much he had changed since they were kids. Though she reminded herself to stay focused, she couldn't help but feel a bit awkward being alone with him so often. Still, she was determined to push him harder starting the next day. After a week of sword practice, Ichika complained that they still hadn't started his training. Houki reminded him his suit hadn't arrived yet. He asked her to teach him at least the basics, but before she could respond, Maya appeared with big news. His suit had finally come. Chifuyu told him to head to the practice arena. When he saw his suit, he was amazed. It looked like something straight out of a Transformers movie. Chifuyu explained that he needed to get used to it before the match. Ichika panicked a little, realizing he had zero training in actually using the suit. The moment he touched it, something felt familiar. He put it on and started getting used to the system inside. Maya warned him that Cecilia's suit had very high offensive power and could drain his armor energy fast. Then Cecilia showed up and offered him one last chance to surrender, confident she would crush him. Ichika didn't back down. She launched the first attack and blasted him hard, sending him to the ground. He kept dodging as best he could, but he wasn't used to the suit's reactions and struggled to keep up. His energy level kept dropping, and all he had to fight back with was a sword. Cecilia mocked him and kept him at a distance with rapid attacks. Despite the class cheering for him, he was barely holding on. Houki looked worried, but even Cecilia was starting to respect how long he was lasting. She amped up her attacks, but Ichika managed to close the distance and forced her to retreat. That's when he noticed her weapons didn't work unless she gave the command. Using that to his advantage, he read her movements and managed to break a bunch of her gear. But then she shot 2 missiles at him. Everyone thought it was over, but his suit activated a new form and completely blocked the damage. Everyone was shocked to see that his suit had transformed during battle. Cecilia realized he had been fighting her using the default settings the whole time. When Ichika looked at his sword, he recognized it. It was the same one Chifuyu had used in the past. She had given it to him. Motivated, he went in for the final hit, destroying her missile system. Just as he was about to finish the fight, his armor energy dropped to 0. Cecilia was declared the winner. Ichika didn't understand why he lost, but Chifuyu explained that his suit was still incomplete and wasn't fully compatible with the others. Frustrated, Maya handed him the manual so he could learn more. That evening, Ichika walked with Houki back to the dorm. He was annoyed that Cecilia ended up becoming class rep. Houki reminded him that from now on, he'd be training with his suit, and when she asked if he still wanted her help, he said yes, because he felt most at ease with her. Meanwhile, Cecilia was alone in her room, fresh out of the shower, wondering why she felt so annoyed even though she technically won the match. A few days later, Chifuyu ran a practical flight test and told Ichika and Cecilia to suit up. When Ichika tried to activate his it didn't respond at first. Chifuyu scolded him, saying an expert could do it instantly. He focused, finally powered it up, and they took off together. Cecilia quickly left him behind in the air. She told him to try using his imagination to guide the suit, but he said flying still felt weird to him. She offered to teach him, but Chifuyu interrupted and ordered a sudden dive back to the training grounds. Cecilia landed perfectly, but Ichika crash-landed like a falling meteor, creating a huge hole in the ground. Everyone rushed over. Houki scolded him while Cecilia told him to go to the infirmary. Ichika noticed how both girls were weirdly concerned about him, and even started arguing over it. He watched them, puzzled by how they were acting. Then, the rest of the class gathered and celebrated Ichika. Cecilia had given up her title as class representative, and admitted that her reason for challenging him in the first place was childish. She stepped aside to let him have the spotlight. The press club arrived to take photos. The photographer asked Ichika and Cecilia to pose together. Cecilia took advantage of the moment and got a cute photo with him, right in front of Houki. But just as the picture was taken, the rest of the girls jumped into the frame too, with Houki right at the front. Back in the dorm, Ichika flopped onto his bed, completely worn out. He asked Houki if she'd be happy to be in his shoes. She threw a pillow at him and told him to turn around so she could change her clothes. The next day, Ichika sat in class while everyone chatted about the upcoming class tournament. In the middle of their conversation, he found out that the second class representative had been replaced by a transfer student. He was surprised. Who transfers in the middle of the year? Yuko, one of his classmates, explained that the new student was from China, but they shouldn't be too worried. Their class had 2 students with personal suits, which gave them an edge. Their talk was suddenly interrupted by a bold voice. Lingyin burst in and confidently declared that she also had her own suit. She bragged that nobody in their class could beat her. Ichika recognized her immediately. She was someone he knew from the past. Lingyin then loudly announced that she had come to challenge their class. Ichika thought she was trying way too hard to sound cool. Before she could say more, Chifuyu walked over and smacked her on the head, telling her to get out before class started. Later, when they ran into each other in the cafeteria, Ichika was still processing the fact that Lingyin had transferred. She told him she had wanted it to be a surprise reunion. He noticed she was still crazy about ramen, just like before. Meanwhile, the other girls watched from the next table, clearly jealous that the two were so close. Lingyin mentioned how surprised she was when she saw him on the news after he enrolled at the Rizz Academy. Ichika laughed, saying he never thought he'd end up in a place like this. When she asked how he got in, he explained that during the entrance exam, he accidentally wandered into a restricted room. There was a suit there, and even though there was a do not enter sign, he ignored it. When he touched the suit, it reacted to him. He had somehow activated it, becoming the first boy in history to use in his suit. Hearing that made Cecilia and Houki furious. They stormed over and demanded he explain what kind of relationship he had with Lingyin. He said they were just childhood friends. Then he introduced everyone to each other and even called Houki his first childhood friend, which made her surprisingly happy. Lingyin then asked if she could watch him train with his suit, ignoring Cecilia's complaints. Houki stepped in, reminding her that she was in charge of Ichika's training and didn't need any help from the enemy. Lingyin smirked and told them both to back off because she wanted to talk to Ichika alone. That made both girls even angrier, especially when Lingyin brought up how Ichika used to eat at her place when they were younger. He quickly corrected her, it was actually her family's Chinese restaurant. Before walking off, Lingyin told Ichika she wanted to meet after school to train. That evening, Cecilia was shocked to see Houki join Ichika's training session using a high-grade Japanese production model suit. Feeling left out, Cecilia got permission to use her own suit to train with them too. Ichika, stuck between the three girls, felt overwhelmed. By the time training ended, he was completely wiped out. After they left, Ichika headed to the locker room, wondering if the chaos would continue until the tournament. Lingyin followed him and took the chance to talk since they were finally alone. She asked if he felt lonely after she moved away years ago. Ichika admitted he missed having someone to play with. She smiled and said now that they'd reunited, they had a lot to catch up on. But when Ichika brought up their old middle school friends, her mood changed. She didn't want to talk about that. Feeling awkward, he told her he needed to go back to his room. When she learned he was sharing a room with Houki, she asked about their relationship. Ichika explained that Houki was his first childhood friend, and the room situation happened only because the academy hadn't assigned him his own yet. Lingyin decided to confront Houki and asked her to switch rooms. Houki bluntly refused, saying she was fine with the arrangement. Lingyin ignored her and asked Ichika if he remembered their old promise. Houki, now fuming, grabbed her wooden sword. Lingyin blocked it using a part of her suit, surprising everyone with how fast she activated it. Ichika asked what this mysterious promise was. Lingyin expected him to know, but when he guessed it was about her cooking meals for him after becoming a good cook, she slapped him. She snapped, saying that any guy who forgets a promise isn't worth calling a man. When he looked confused, she refused to tell him what the real promise was. Lingyin then challenged him to a match in the seasonal league. The loser would have to do whatever the winner asked. Ichika was nervous about facing her in the first round, but Houki encouraged him, reminding him he had trained hard. The battle began. Ichika took the first move, and the two exchanged fast-paced attacks. Lingyin started taking the lead, forcing him to retreat to avoid more damage. She used her strongest weapons to knock him down, and his suit's energy began to drop fast. After regaining balance, Ichika dodged more of her hits, then charged into counterattack. As he fought, he remembered Chifuyu's training. He once complained to her about only having one weapon. She had told him she won a world championship with just that and that it was enough. He also remembered her tips on dodging long-range strikes, even if learning everything at once felt impossible. She had told him he was the only one who could do it. Determined, Ichika told Lingyin he'd fight seriously now. She smirked and said she'd show him how wide the gap was between them. She chased him with sharp weapons meant to break his defenses. Then, something unexpected happened. Maya noticed something was wrong. Chifuyu saw that the ring's protective barrier had been breached. She ended the match on the spot and ordered them to retreat. Ichika didn't understand what was going on until Lingyin told him they had to leave. But he refused to abandon her. She tried to make him leave anyway, saying he was the weaker one and the teachers would be there soon. Suddenly, a powerful beam shot out at Lingyin. Ichika saved her just in time and kept dodging lasers in midair. A massive machine appeared in the arena, and Maya warned Ichika to run. Instead, he decided to buy time for everyone else to escape. As the monster attacked, Ichika and Lingyin came up with a plan to hold it off until backup arrived. Maya lost contact with them. Chifuyu, though worried, acted calm. She pretended not to care, but even accidentally put salt in her coffee, revealing how tense she was. Cecilia asked for permission to help in the fight, but Chifuyu told her that the barrier was now too strong to break through and that no one could enter or exit. She explained that this was likely all a setup to isolate Ichika and Lingyin. Cecilia suggested calling the government and breaking the shield with senior students' help. Chifuyu agreed, but told Cecilia that her suit wasn't meant for enemy combat, and she wasn't trained for team battles. Meanwhile, Ichika and Lingyin kept fighting but couldn't land any real damage. Ichika's shots missed, and he started to panic. He told Lingyin to run, but she refused. When Ichika got close enough, he suspected the enemy was human. Lingyin realized the same. The enemy wasn't attacking during their conversation, like he was listening. Ichika figured that this intruder was acting more like a robot, which gave him an idea. If the enemy couldn't dodge well, he could go full power with one clean strike. Just then, Houki appeared on a nearby ledge and cheered for him to go all out. But now the monster locked onto her as its next target. Lingyin prepared to shoot, but Ichika stepped in front of her, telling her to aim at him instead. She fired, and his suit absorbed the energy boost. With full power, he rushed in and sliced the intruder's arm clean off. But the enemy retaliated, knocking him away and preparing another attack. That's when Cecilia made her entrance, hitting the monster hard enough to stop it temporarily. But before they could relax, the enemy powered up again and struck Ichika directly. Ichika later woke up in the hospital. Lingyin was beside him, about to kiss him in his sleep, but she quickly pulled away. When he asked what happened, she told him the intruder had finally shut down and no one else got hurt. Looking out the window, Ichika remembered a conversation from their childhood about how she'd feed him her cooking. He asked if the promise was just about selling him food. Lingyin denied it. She explained she wanted him to eat her meals to help her improve her skills as a cook. Ichika teased her, saying he preferred her dad's cooking. That's when she admitted her family restaurant no longer existed. Her parents had split up, and that's why she came back from China. Sensing her sadness, Ichika gently offered to go on a walk with her once he recovered. She blushed, thinking he was asking her on a date. Before she could say more, Cecilia barged in to check on him. Seeing Lingyin already there, she got mad and charged. Then Houki showed up, and like usual, the girls started fighting again. While Ichika was recovering, Chifuyu and Maya studied the broken robot that attacked them. After taking it apart, they found something strange. The core inside wasn't one of the 467 known as cores in the world. It was completely unknown. A few days later, Ichika visited his friend Dan at home. He thought Dan was lucky to study at a school full of girls, but Dan said it wasn't as fun as it looked. He admitted things got better when Lingyin moved in. Then, Dan's sister Ran came into the room to call them for lunch. She didn't know Ichika was there and got embarrassed because she looked messy. Later, when they sat down to eat, Ichika noticed she had changed clothes. He joked, asking if she had a date, and she angrily denied it. Dan saw that Ichika acted the same way around girls at school and felt bad for Lingyin, but Ichika didn't understand what he meant. That evening, when Ichika got back to the academy, Maya told him that Houki was moving to a separate room. Houki seemed unsure but agreed. Ichika joked that now he wouldn't need her to wake him up, which made her mad. She grabbed her stuff and left. Ichika didn't get why she was upset. Later that night, Houki came back and knocked on his door. When he opened it, she told him she wanted to go on a date with him because she won the class tournament. Meanwhile, the press club girls went out shopping and started spreading news about Ichika and Houki's date. The next day, everyone at school knew about the date. Other girls got jealous and said they would win the next tournament just to go on a date with him. Cecilia didn't know what was going on, and Houki pretended she didn't either. One of the press girls admitted they may have gone too far. Ichika walked into class and was surprised by how happy everyone seemed. Then Meyer introduced a new transfer student. To everyone's shock, it was a boy named Charles from France. Ichika wasn't the only boy at the academy anymore. All the girls were excited, and Charles became super popular right away. Chifuyu said they'd start joint training with Class 2 and told Ichika to look after Charles. The two boys quickly left the room while the girls got ready. Ichika explained that they'd be changing in separate rooms during training. On the way, a bunch of girls from other classes surrounded them, excited to see two boys who could use as suits. When they reached the locker room, Ichika started changing, but Charles looked away shyly, acting more like a girl. Ichika told him to hurry because their teacher didn't like delays. Then he noticed Charles finished changing fast, and his suit looked different. Charles explained it was a special model made by his family's company, the biggest company in France. Ichika thought he looked like a prince. During training, Chifuyu asked Cecilia and Lingyin to fight each other. At first, they weren't excited. Chifuyu said this was their chance to show off in front of Ichika. They got them fired up. Suddenly, Maya came flying from above and crashed into Ichika. Chifuyu then told Maya to fight both Lingyin and Cecilia. The girls attacked, but they bumped into each other, and Maya used that moment to defeat them both with one move. Chifuyu explained this was the power difference between teachers and students. After that, Chifuyu made small groups led by students with personal suits. Ichika and Charles each led a group. Cecilia and Lingyin weren't happy, they wanted to be in Ichika's group. First, Kyoka from Ichika's team tried the suit. Then Houki came up, pretending she couldn't reach the top of the suit. Maya told Ichika to lift her. Houki blushed, but secretly enjoyed being in his arms and imagined they were a fairy tale couple. After training, Houki invited Ichika to have lunch on the rooftop, and he agreed. But when the others heard about it, they joined in too, saying it would help Charles fit in. The girls brought homemade food from their countries. Ichika tried Cecilia's dish first but couldn't eat it, it tasted terrible. Then he tried Houki's food and liked it, which made the others jealous. Things got more intense when he offered to feed Houki, making Cecilia and Lingyin furious. Charles tried to calm everyone down by suggesting they all eat together. In the end, Ichika was stuck between both angry girls. That evening, Ichika and Charles hung out in their room. Charles was happy to finally have another boy around. He asked if he could train with Ichika after school. Ichika said yes. The next day, Maya introduced another new student, Laura from Germany. Everyone was shocked to see 2 transfers in 2 days. Ichika remembered Laura was from the same place Chifuyu used to work. To his surprise, Laura walked up to him and slapped him. She said she didn't accept him as Chifuyu's brother. Later, Ichika was training with Houki, Lingyin, and Cecilia. Charles showed up and asked to fight Ichika. They sparred in front of everyone. Charles stayed back and used long-range attacks. Ichika's armor energy dropped fast and reached 0. Charles won quickly. The girls scolded Ichika for not knowing how long-range weapons worked, but Charles explained it in a simple way that Ichika understood better. Charles gave him his sniper rifle to try out. At first, Ichika hesitated, but Charles said it was okay. He even helped him learn how to aim. The girls were annoyed that Ichika and Charles had become so close. Then Laura walked in wearing her Germanist suit. She challenged Ichika to a duel, but he refused. He didn't want to fight for no reason. Laura attacked anyway, but Charles blocked it with his shield and fought instead. She hated that and got angrier. Before the fight could continue, Chifuyu's voice came over the speaker, and Laura backed off, saying they'd finish it later. After training, they went to the locker room. Charles went to shower first. Ichika felt like Charles was uncomfortable changing around him, so he suggested they take turns. Charles was so embarrassed he ran out half-dressed. That night, Ichika thought about why Laura hated him so much. Then he saw her talking to Chifuyu and hid behind a tree to listen. Laura begged Chifuyu to return to Germany to keep teaching her. Chifuyu told her she had become arrogant and refused to go back. When Laura left, she told Ichika to stop eavesdropping and go train. Ichika asked why she didn't want to accept him as Chifuyu's brother. He thought it was because of what happened in the past. He had been kidnapped during Chifuyu's big tournament, and she gave up her match to save him. After that, she worked in Germany for a year as thanks. Ichika blamed himself for ruining her career and felt like a weak little brother. When he got back to his room, Charles was still in the shower. Ichika saw a bottle of soap and brought it to him. But when he opened the door, he saw Charles completely naked. That's when he realized Charles was actually a girl. Neither of them said anything. After her shower, she sat on the bed in silence. Ichika made some tea to ease the tension but burned himself and dunked his hand in water. He asked why she pretended to be a boy. Charles said her father made her do it. She used to live apart from him, and after her mom died, she went to live with her dad. He tested her as power and found she had very high potential. Even though his company made 3rd-gen suits, she only got a 2nd-gen model. Charles said she joined the academy to gather data and get close to Ichika's suit. Pretending to be a boy helped her get attention. Now that her secret was out, she apologized for lying. Ichika felt bad for her. He said he and Chifuyu were also abandoned by their parents. He told her she didn't have to go back to France. If she stayed at the academy, no one could touch her. Charles thanked him for protecting her. Then someone knocked. It was Cecilia. She came in and saw Ichika sitting next to Charles. He said Charles wasn't feeling well, and he was helping out. Cecilia offered to take him out for dinner. As they stepped out together, Ichika and Cecilia ran into Houki. The moment Houki saw how close Cecilia was sticking to Ichika, she got jealous. Not wanting to lose to her, Houki quickly said she'd join them for dinner too. Later that day, Ichika came back to the room with some food for Charles. When she tried to eat, she struggled with the chopsticks. Ichika offered to grab a fork, but Charles said she'd manage. He smiled and told her it's okay to rely on others sometimes. Embarrassed, Charles blushed and asked him to feed her instead. Ichika was caught off guard, but since he was the one who said it, he decided to do it. At the same time, Laura stood alone looking up at the sky, thinking about how Ichika ruined the image she had of her idol, Chifuyu. She promised herself she'd get revenge and take Ichika out of her way. The next morning, all the girls were whispering about how winning the class league would earn them a date with Ichika. When Ichika walked into class with Charles, everyone rushed back to their seats, acting suspicious. Houki sat quietly, upset that everyone somehow knew she wanted to go on a date with Ichika if she won the tournament. She had promised herself she'd win no matter what. She remembered the time when, as a kid, she lost the kendo finals because her sister Tabane chose that moment to announce the invention of the suit. Their whole family came under surveillance after that, and Houki ended up living apart from her parents. Even though she had no contact with Tabane anymore, she kept training in kendo to stay connected to her. It was the only thing that kept her going. Meanwhile, out on the training grounds, Cecilia and Lingyin were arguing over who was stronger. They both activated their suits and started to fight. But Laura suddenly showed up, calling them weak and challenging them to attack her together. She was annoyed that people like them had third-generation suits just like her. Cecilia and Lingyin were angry and attacked together, but Laura was way too strong. She dodged every move, tied up Lingyin, and threw her into Cecilia. Even when Cecilia fired a close-range shot, Laura wasn't even scratched. Ichika and Charles saw everyone running toward the fight and followed them. Ichika was shocked at Laura's power. She blocked Lingyin's strongest attack like it was nothing and took both girls down easily. Ichika jumped into the battle using his suit, breaking through the training ring's barrier, but Laura stopped him easily. He couldn't move. She mocked him for letting his emotions take over and called him unworthy. Just as she was about to finish him, Charles stepped in, shooting at her from a distance. Ichika used the chance to rescue Lingyin and Cecilia. They were embarrassed that he had to save them. Houki stood by feeling angry. She didn't have her own suit and couldn't help at all. Laura then caught Charles and was about to attack her too. But Chifuyu showed up and stopped the fight. She scolded everyone for destroying the training area and said personal fights would be settled only in the class tournament. Laura had no choice but to back down. Later, Ichika visited Lingyin and Cecilia in the infirmary. They bragged that they could have won even without his help. Charles thought they were being dramatic and told them they were acting weird in front of the guy they obviously liked. The girls denied having feelings for him. When he asked why they fought Laura, Cecilia just said Laura hurt her pride as a woman. Just then, all the girls rushed in with big news. The class league would now be done in teams of 2, and partners would be picked by lottery. Ichika said he wanted to team up with Charles. Cecilia and Lingyin got mad and tried to change his mind. But Maya told them they couldn't participate anyway. Their suits were too damaged. They could only cheer for Team Ichika and hope no other girl got close to him. That evening, Charles thanked Ichika for picking her as a partner. He said he did it so no one would find out she was a girl. Back in their room, he told her she didn't need to pretend to be a boy when it was just the two of them. He started to leave so she could change, but Charles stopped him. She said leaving might make people suspicious, so they agreed to change facing opposite directions. While changing, Charles tripped and yelped in pain. Ichika turned around out of habit and saw her half naked on the floor. She blushed, kicked him away, and Ichika passed out. Still, for the first time, Charles felt like someone truly cared about her. The next day was their first match. Talent scouts and officials were watching. Charles seemed distracted, clearly thinking about Laura. Ichika told her to stay focused. When they looked at the match draw, they were shocked. Team Ichika would fight against Laura and Houki. At the arena, Laura was excited. She said she wanted to crush Ichika in the first round and move on. When the match began, Ichika charged at her. She easily blocked him and laughed at his simple plan. She tried to blast him up close, but Charles jumped in, shooting at Laura non-stop. Houki jumped in to help, but Laura suddenly pulled her own teammate back and threw her out of the ring so she could fight Ichika alone. Charles blocked Houki and knocked her out of the fight by draining her energy. Ichika then prepared a full power attack. Charles distracted Laura to create an opening. Ichika got close and landed a hit, damaging Laura's suit. But his armor energy ran out, and Laura countered, knocking him back. Just when it seemed over, Charles used a surprise move that wasn't even in her suit's specs, blasting bullets non-stop. Laura tried to block with her shield, but one bullet pierced through from behind. Ichika had picked up Charles's gun and used it. While Laura was focused on him, Charles got close, broke her armor, and drained most of her energy. Laura was defeated. As she fell, Laura had a flashback. She remembered growing up in the German army, always training, always fighting. She reached S rank and had a chip implanted in her eye, an experiment that failed. Then she met Chifuyu, who trained her and became her hero. But Chifuyu left to protect her brother, and Laura blamed Ichika for that. Suddenly, Laura's anger boiled over. She fused completely with her suit, transforming into a huge monster. The tournament was shut down, the crowd evacuated, and security rushed in. Ichika tried to fight her, but she destroyed his suit in one hit and hurt his arm. Her style reminded him of his sister's, and he got angry, thinking Laura was mocking Chifuyu. He almost attacked her in rage, but Houki stopped him and slapped him back to his senses. She reminded him that without his suit, there was nothing he could do. Then Charles connected her suit to Ichika's, giving him enough power to reactivate it. She made him promise not to lose, or he'd have to wear a girl's uniform to school. Ichika laughed and agreed. He summoned his sword, charged it with energy, and faced Laura again. They clashed hard, but this time, he cut right through the monster and pulled Laura out from inside. Later that night, Laura woke up after dreaming about Ichika asking her why she wanted to be stronger. Chifuyu was sitting beside her. She told Laura that her suit's transformation was caused by a band tracking system that reacted to her emotions. Before leaving, Chifuyu told her she could now live as her true self, Laura, and didn't need to copy anyone else. Meanwhile, Ichika sat eating dinner with Charles, annoyed that the tournament was cancelled. The girls who were most upset were the ones who lost their chance to win a date with him. He saw Houki nearby and went to her. He told her he was finally ready to go on that date she wanted. Houki didn't believe it at first. When he said he only meant to go shopping, she got mad and smacked him before walking off. Maya suggested that Ichika relax and take a shower in the newly built boys' bathroom. Charles had to join him to avoid being spotted, and she was super embarrassed the whole time. Later, Charles sat beside him and said she had decided to stay at the academy for him. She also asked him to call her by her real name, Charlotte, when they were alone. The next day, Maya confused everyone by announcing a new transfer student. To their surprise, it was Charlotte, wearing her suit and revealing herself as a girl. Houki was shocked and angry that Ichika had been living with a girl all this time. Then, Lingyin suddenly broke into class in her suit, ready to attack Ichika, but Laura jumped in and saved him just in time. Before anyone could react, Laura kissed Ichika in front of everyone and declared he was going to be her husband, and that he had no say in it. A few days later, Houki called her sister Tabane, who was busy with work, but Tabane already knew what Houki wanted. She said her personal suit was finally complete, and it would be the most advanced one ever made. The next morning, Ichika woke up and was shocked to see Laura sleeping beside him in bed, completely naked. She opened her eyes, unfazed, and told him that since they were a couple, they shouldn't keep secrets from each other. Ichika couldn't believe how bold she had gotten. Laura kept acting like they were already married. Just then, Houki walked in, saw the scene, got jealous, and beat Ichika up without even hearing an explanation. Later, Ichika and Charlotte went out to buy swimsuits for their beach training course. While walking, Ichika accidentally called her Charles instead of Charlotte, and she got annoyed. She told him she'd forgive him, but only if he held her hand the entire time. He agreed so they wouldn't get lost. Meanwhile, Lingyin and Cecilia were secretly following them, watching from a distance. Lingyin was furious when she saw them holding hands, but before she could say anything, Laura showed up. She said she wasn't there to fight, they just wanted to see what kind of relationship Ichika and Charlotte had. Cecilia agreed to follow and observe them first. As Ichika and Charlotte continued walking around town, Ichika decided to split up and asked her to check out a clothing store while he went somewhere else. Not far away, Dan and Ran were shopping for summer swimsuits. Ichika bumped into Ran, and she quickly pulled him aside. She told him she wished she had known he was swimsuit shopping. She would have let him help choose hers. Then she surprised him by saying she was planning to join the Rizz Academy next year. Charlotte soon found Ichika and pulled him into a fitting room. She whispered for him to stay quiet. Outside, the other girls were still searching for them. Inside the store, Laura looked at the variety of swimsuits and noticed girls picking flashy ones to impress guys. It was a new experience for her, and she didn't know how to feel about it. Charlotte, meanwhile, tried to stall the others by keeping Ichika hidden as long as possible. While in the fitting room, Charlotte suddenly started changing right in front of Ichika. He quickly turned around, blushing and trying to think of anything else. When she told him she was done, he looked back and saw her wearing a bright yellow swimsuit. Just as he was admiring it, Chifuyu entered and found her lil bro finally losing her V card. Meyer also showed up and gave them both a long lecture about proper behavior. Elsewhere, Laura contacted her boss, Clarissa, to say she was attending the beach course. She said she needed her best swimsuit because she had a plan to impress Ichika. A few days later, the class headed to the beach. Maya told them to be back at the hotel by dinner. All the girls were excited to spend time with Ichika. Cecilia was first to make her move. She asked Ichika to help apply sunscreen. He hesitated in front of everyone but eventually helped with her back. When she asked him to do the rest, Lingyin jumped in and rubbed the rest of the lotion on her, causing Cecilia to get angry and hit Ichika, leaving him floating in the ocean. Lingyin joined him and invited him to swim, but before he could answer, she cramped up mid-swim and started drowning. Ichika rushed to save her. They sat on the beach to catch their breath, but Cecilia wasn't done. She pulled Lingyin away back to the hotel, hoping to remove her from the competition. Meanwhile, Charlotte saw Laura wearing a full-body towel outfit like a mummy. She was too embarrassed to show her swimsuit. Charlotte tried to cheer her up. When Laura finally changed, she expected Ichika to laugh, but instead, he said she looked cute. That made her feel something new. Later, the girls challenged Ichika, Charlotte, and Laura to a 3-on-3 volleyball match. Laura couldn't focus. No one had ever complimented her like that before. A ball smacked her in the face mid-game. Chifuyu and Maya joined the group. It was Ichika's first time seeing his sister in a casual setting. Charlotte looked around and realized there was serious competition for Ichika's attention. That evening, back at the hotel, Ichika sat between Charlotte and Cecilia during dinner. Cecilia looked uncomfortable. Ichika noticed and told her she could sit however she wanted, even if it wasn't proper. She acted like everything was fine, but was caught off guard when he offered to feed her with chopsticks. The other girls stared, full of jealousy, while Houki quietly watched with a suspicious expression. Chifuyu stormed in and told everyone to stop making a scene. She warned Ichika not to cause more trouble. After she left, Ichika whispered to Cecilia to come to his room later. He wanted to talk. Cecilia was shocked and thought he meant something romantic. She started preparing gifts and even put on sexy underwear. Ran noticed, causing a commotion as the girls ganged up on her, calling her a pervert. Cecilia escaped and made her way to Ichika's room but noticed the other girls spying near the door. Inside, Ichika was massaging Chifuyu's back. The girls stormed in, confused by what was happening. Chifuyu didn't mind. She even asked if they wanted massages too. Cecilia sat down, and Chifuyu saw her outfit and smirked, realizing what she was trying to do. She told the girls if they really wanted Ichika's heart, they'd have to reach her level. The next day, Ichika saw Houki staring at something buried in the sand. When he walked over, she acted like she didn't know what it was and left. Furious, he pulled the thing out and suddenly a rocket landed on him. It was a carrot-shaped spaceship, and Tabane, Houki's older sister, popped out. Tabane asked where Houki was. When Ichika didn't answer, she used a motion detector to find her. Cecilia appeared and was shocked when Ichika said the crazy girl was Tabane, the genius scientist who created these. Soon, the class gathered for training. Tabane acted childish and tried to hug Chifuyu, who blocked her. Houki hid behind a rock to avoid her, but Tabane found her anyway and playfully hit her. Chifuyu asked Tabane to introduce herself, and the others were shocked to learn she was the Tabane Shinonono. Suddenly, another rocket landed. It was Houki's new 4th-generation suit. Tabane told them it was the most powerful as yet. Houki was amazed when she tried it on. Tabane made a few tweaks and told her it would move with her thoughts. Houki flew into the sky and was amazed by the suit's speed and weapons. But the moment was cut short. Maya ran up to report that an unknown robot had attacked a coastal area near Hawaii. Chifuyu canceled training and rushed back to base. They found out that the rogue robot had escaped its test area and was now only 2 kilometers away. Chifuyu told everyone they had 50 minutes to stop it. The robot had similar features to Cecilia's suit and could fly at supersonic speed. They had to come up with a plan fast. To everyone's shock, Chifuyu put Ichika in charge of taking down the robot. He was nervous but determined to succeed. Tabane suggested they use Houki's new suit for speed and tracking. Tabane also mentioned the White Knight incident from 10 years ago, when Japan was attacked by thousands of missiles after Tabane announced his invention. A woman in a silver suit appeared and blocked all the missiles. That suit was later named White Knight. Cecilia offered to support Ichika and Houki during the mission. Chifuyu said the operation would start in 30 minutes and reminded them the goal was to take the robot down completely. Ichika stood on the beach, ready. He activated his suit and flew off with Houki, who was excited to finally be part of a real battle. Chifuyu told her not to push herself. This was her first fight. She also told Ichika to support Houki if she got carried away. They flew full speed toward the robot. Ichika was surprised at how fast Houki's suit was. When they got close, she said they'd engage in 1 minute. Ichika launched a powerful attack, but the robot dodged and tried to fly away. They gave chase. The robot attacked, and Ichika came up with a two-sided strategy. Houki went in to block its movements, and Ichika got ready to finish it, but then he spotted a ship below. He stopped his attack to avoid hurting innocent people. Houki thought they were just criminals and didn't care, but Ichika refused to risk their lives. He got hit badly while protecting them. Houki got upset and said he was being soft, but he told her that having power didn't mean hurting the weak, and she started to question herself. Suddenly, the robot fired again. Houki was in danger, and before the beam could hit her, Ichika flew in and took the full blast to protect her. He was knocked out and sank into the ocean near the ship. After a while, Chifuyu felt like they had hit a wall. Their plan to destroy the robot was falling apart. Just then, Charlotte called in, asking if she could join the fight, but Chifuyu said no. She didn't want Charlotte involved, especially since Ichika was still unconscious. Laura remembered when they had pulled Ichika out of the water. While the others panicked, Chifuyu stayed calm, even though her brother almost died. Laura knew Chifuyu was hurting inside but was keeping it all bottled up. She had locked herself inside the lab and was now completely focused on the alien robot. Meanwhile, Houki sat quietly beside the unconscious Ichika. She hadn't spoken since they brought him back. She thought about the last words he said before the fight. He had wanted to protect even the criminals on the ship. She realized he had such a kind heart, even forgiving those who broke the law. Compared to him, she felt heartless. Maya came in and gently asked her to rest. Houki left the room and just ran. Memories flooded back, like the time she was bullied as a kid and Ichika stood up for her, even though they had never met. Lingyin snapped her out of it. When Houki said she never wanted to wear her suit again, Lingyin slapped her. She told her that people with personal suits had a responsibility, and that she was acting selfish. She called Houki a coward. Houki got mad but realized she still wanted to fight. Soon, the other girls joined her. None of them wanted to lose this battle. Laura then used the satellite system to locate the robot. It was 300 kilometers away. That night, the girls all teamed up to finish the job once and for all. Laura launched the first attack but didn't do any damage. Chifuyu and Maya knew the girls were breaking orders, but Chifuyu expected this. Laura kept firing at the robot, but it suddenly rushed toward her. Before it could hit, the others jumped in. Charlotte chased it down but barely dodged the sneak attack thanks to her shield. Houki, flying through the night sky, started remembering Ichika. While distracted, the robot grabbed her. She fought back and managed to slice it in half, but it changed shape, triggered a flood, and returned stronger. It created a thunderstorm around them. The robot knocked Houki down and started attacking the girls one by one. Houki lay on the ground, unable to move. As she started to pass out, she wished she could see Ichika one last time. Suddenly, she heard his voice and opened her eyes to find him flying in front of her, alive and in his suit. He smiled and said he was okay and ready to fight. When she started crying, he gave her his handkerchief and said, "I remembered your birthday, July 7th. Back at the base, Chifuyu and Maya lost contact with the girls. But then, other students broke into the room and shouted that Ichika had woken up and flown off to join the battle. Maya was shocked when she saw Ichika's suit. It had evolved into a new form. He flew in and started fighting the robot with everything he had. Houki got up, full of energy, and joined him. The rest of the girls met up with them to finish it together. Houki was surprised her suit had fully recharged. Ichika's, however, only had 10% left. He rushed in anyway. She flew over and transferred some of her energy to help him. Then, they all charged the robot at once. The robot fought back fiercely, and everyone's energy began to drop fast. But Ichika saw a chance while the robot was distracted. He flew in and landed one final powerful hit, completely destroying it. He held on to make sure it didn't come back. The next day, Chifuyu yelled at everyone for breaking the rules, even though they won. She said they'd get extra training as punishment. But before walking off, she blushed a little and admitted she was proud of them for winning and coming back safe. Everyone celebrated back at the academy with a group breakfast. But later, the girls noticed Ichika and Houki were nowhere to be found. That evening, Tabane watched the recorded fight and was impressed by how Houki's suit could regenerate. Chifuyu stepped in and said the ability reminded her of the White Knight's suit. She then asked if Tabane had secretly moved the suit Ichika touched back during the entrance exam, the one that activated by itself. Tabane just smiled and said she didn't know how it moved, even though it was considered unusable. Chifuyu wondered if Tabane had purposely triggered the alien robot to show off Houki's new suit. After all, Tabane had hacked into military systems in 12 countries before. Tabane didn't answer. She just grinned and vanished after asking, "Isn't this world fascinating?" Meanwhile, Ichika sat alone by the beach, thinking about how he protected everyone and finally succeeded. Houki walked up behind him in a swimsuit. He told her he was happy things were back to normal and his injuries weren't too bad. Houki was upset about the injury she caused. She said she'd never forgive herself. Ichika told her he was going to punish her. When she closed her eyes, he gently bonked her on the head. She got mad, thinking he wasn't taking it seriously. Then, she realized how close they were and backed away nervously. Ichika leaned in a bit. But just then, the other girls showed up and freaked out. Ichika had to grab Houki and run as they all chased him down. After some time, Ichika found himself in a strange place, looking at the sky. He saw a vision of the future, fighting side by side with his friends. Suddenly, the White Knight appeared before him. He realized it was Chifuyu. But when he reached for her, her energy changed, and the world around him warped. She grabbed him and said she would destroy him. Ichika woke up suddenly, it was just a dream. And then, Laura kicked him in the face. She had somehow ended up sleeping in his bed again. When Ichika said he wanted to check out a festival, Laura said she wanted to wear a yukata and go with him. But when he mentioned inviting the others too, she got mad and stormed out. Cecilia had just returned to school after visiting her home in England. She was happy to see Ichika again. When she saw him waiting near the entrance, she assumed he was there just for her. In her imagination, he handed her flowers and confessed his love. Of course, that didn't happen. Laura, still annoyed at Ichika, went to have breakfast with Charlotte. Charlotte invited her to go clothes shopping, surprised by Laura's sudden excitement. On the way, they overheard girls talking about a seaside park where couples who eat raspberry crepes together would fall in love. That made Charlotte blush a little. Meanwhile, Lingyin stayed in her room, sad that summer was ending and Ichika hadn't asked her out even once. She had chosen not to go home, hoping to spend time with him. When Ichika walked in and saw her in summer clothes, she got flustered and punched him out of the room. At the clothing store, everyone was stunned to see Laura and Charlotte shopping together. The store owner let them try on new arrivals. Laura, unsure about her looks, tried on a dress and imagined Ichika complimenting her. Charlotte helped her pick out matching shoes, but Laura nearly fell. Charlotte caught her just in time. People nearby took pictures of them. Meanwhile, Houki was taking a shower, thinking about whether her body had changed over summer. Then she heard Ichika's voice outside. When she stepped out, he handed her an invitation to the upcoming summer festival. Back in town, Charlotte and Laura went to a cafe for lunch. Charlotte teased Laura, saying she probably wanted Ichika to be the first to see her in the new dress. Laura denied it. Then the cafe manager offered them part-time jobs, and they agreed. Charlotte wore a butler outfit, which surprised her, but the manager said she looked better than most boys on the street. While they were working, a group of robbers stormed in and took the cafe hostage. One asked Laura for the menu. She filled glasses with ice, then used them to take out the robbers with quick kicks. When the boss aimed his gun, Charlotte disarmed him and knocked him out. As police surrounded the cafe, one robber tried to blow himself up, but Laura and Charlotte shot the device on his belt and disabled it. They escaped quickly and went to buy raspberry crepes, but they were sold out. They shared a different flavor by the river. That night, back in their dorm, Laura blushed seeing Charlotte wear cat ears to bed. She was embarrassed, especially when Ichika saw them. But he didn't say much and handed Charlotte an invite to the next day's festival. At the same time, something dangerous was happening. A mysterious girl with long dark hair had broken into the D6 sector. She easily defeated the guards and destroyed their robotic suits. When they asked what she was after, she said she came for the Infinite Stratos suit that was sealed inside. They didn't stand a chance. She summoned her own suit, activated her weapon, and wiped them out in one move. The next day, Houki was excited to meet Ichika for their one-on-one date. But her mood dropped instantly when she arrived and saw all the other girls already there, waiting for Ichika too. Moments later, he showed up smiling like a happy kid, not realizing how annoyed they all were. Each of them had wanted alone time with him, but now they were forced to share. Ichika, clueless, just smiled at their frustration. Still, they all spent the day together at the festival, doing games and enjoying the fun. When evening came, they gathered up and headed back, marking the official end of summer break. What they didn't know was that a mysterious girl was secretly watching them, quietly preparing to make her move. Once classes restarted, Ichika had a sparring match with Lingyin. At first, he had the upper hand, but Chifuyu and Maya were watching, and Chifuyu pointed out that her brother was just charging in without thinking. His suit's energy ran out fast, and he lost. Frustrated, Ichika sat in the locker room, thinking about how to reduce his suit's energy use. Suddenly, a girl he didn't recognize appeared behind him, telling him to hurry up and change before Chifuyu got mad. He didn't make it in time and ended up getting scolded in front of the whole class. He tried to explain that he met a new student, but no one believed him. Then Charlotte, thinking he was making excuses, activated her suit and attacked him. Later that day, the whole school gathered for an assembly. Ichika was shocked when the new girl introduced herself as Tate Nashi, the student council president. She announced the start of preparations for the upcoming Academy Festival and asked every class to suggest ideas. Ichika found out his classmates had already submitted silly activity ideas using his name, like games and food stalls where he was the main attraction. He scolded them, but they didn't care. Meyer encouraged the fun ideas, so Ichika tried to accept it without dressing up too much. As he left class, Tate Nashi met him again and casually told him she was going to be his new personal trainer. He said he didn't need more training, but she insisted, telling him he was still weak. They headed to the training grounds, where she challenged him to a match. The winner would be whoever knocked the other down. Ichika thought she was going easy on him, but the moment the fight started, she kept tossing him around like it was nothing. He got frustrated and gave it his all, but accidentally tore her clothes. That made her snap, and she kicked him all over the place as payback. At the same time, Laura was looking for Ichika and started worrying that he was avoiding her. When she passed by some girls talking about getting Ichika's attention, she fixed her hair in the mirror. Just then, Chifuyu appeared behind her. Laura quickly said she wasn't trying to be flashy, but Chifuyu didn't care. She just told her Ichika was seen near the nurse's office. Ichika, half asleep, found himself under a tree looking at a girl, then suddenly woke up lying on Tate Nashi's lap in the infirmary. He sat up fast, but she gently pulled him back down to rest. When Laura walked in and saw that, she exploded with jealousy, summoned her weapon, and attacked Tate Nashi, but got defeated easily. Later, Tate Nashi and Ichika ran into Cecilia and Charlotte and took them to the training grounds. Tate Nashi asked them to fly around and shoot fire cannons in a circle formation. But when the girls saw Tate Nashi getting too close to Ichika, they got jealous and crashed mid-air. Then, she made Ichika spar against Cecilia. He lost quickly because he couldn't control his weapon or dodge well. Still, he refused to quit and asked for a rematch. While they fought, Tate Nashi explained to Charlotte that Ichika's long-range weapon skills were weak because he couldn't fire quickly enough or penetrate armor. He needed more training. Later that night, Ichika returned to his room exhausted after finally winning against Cecilia. He was shocked to find Tate Nashi already there, acting flirty and teasing him. He stepped out to double-check the room number, confused, but she cornered him and asked if he had feelings for her. Meanwhile, Houki was walking toward his room with food. When she heard Tate Nashi's voice inside, she lost her temper and blasted the door open. She rushed in, sword in hand, but Tate Nashi blocked her easily with a spear, disarming her. Over time, Ichika trained hard with Tate Nashi. Though her methods were rough, they helped. Even when he collapsed from exhaustion, she made him get up and try again. While resting with the girls later, he admitted he was exhausted and that Tate Nashi had him doing student council duties too. Lingyin complained he was being too harsh, but Ichika agreed with her. He knew he needed to grow stronger. The girls offered to let him sleep in their rooms, but while they argued about who'd get him, he had already fallen asleep sitting there. A few days later, Ichika was brushing his teeth when Tate Nashi suddenly entered and fell asleep on his bed in seductive clothes. He panicked and ran into the bathroom. She followed and asked him to give her a massage, saying she'd heard he was good at it. Embarrassed, Ichika refused. When he didn't come out, she used her spear to break the door, and they ended up falling on top of each other in an awkward mess. In the end, Ichika had to agree to her massage request. The next day was the Academy Festival, and Ichika started running his class's cafe. He was surprised to see Lingyin show up wearing a traditional Chinese dress. She asked him for a drink, and after he brought it with some snacks, she asked him to feed her. Though she was shy at first, she eventually did, and asked him to return the favor. Before things got more romantic, Houki barged in and scolded them. But when Ichika called Houki cute while eating, she blushed, slapped him, and stormed off. Later, a girl named Ryoko Makigami approached Ichika and introduced herself as someone from a company that makes his related gear. She tried to sell him some advanced equipment, but thankfully, his classmate Takatsuki showed up and dragged him away with an excuse. Ichika took a break, but soon the other girls fought over him again. Cecilia managed to win and took him to the music exhibit. Ichika liked a wind instrument and asked Cecilia to try it, but she got flustered, thinking it was like kissing him indirectly. Afterward, he ran into Tate Nashi, who asked him to help with a student union play. Without waiting for an answer, she threw a costume at him and told him to just put it on. Ichika was surprised that there was no script, but she smiled and said it was improv, and she'd guide him during the performance. Ichika walked onto the stage, expecting a normal school play, but things quickly got weird. After a short Cinderella story played on the screen, the lights came on, and suddenly Lingyin ran up and attacked him, demanding his crown. He had no idea what was happening. Before he could react, Cecilia started shooting at him with her rifle. Turns out, Tate Nashi had secretly turned the play into a battle between all the girls. The goal: whoever took Ichika's crown would win. While Ichika was hiding behind a wall, Charlotte found him and whispered for him to run. Before he could escape, she asked for his crown. He took it off, but as soon as he did, a hidden trap zapped him with electricity. Lingyin and Cecilia kept chasing him, but Ichika dodged their attacks while carrying Charlotte in his arms. The two of them fell off a platform, but Ichika managed to escape and climb to the top of the stage, only to find Laura waiting. She attacked him too, demanding the crown. Then Tate Nashi made things crazier by launching a fireball to spice up the action. Ichika had no choice but to jump off the roof with Laura. After splitting up, Ichika bumped into Houki. She told him it'd be safer if they climbed the tower together. Once they reached the top, she asked for the crown. But before he could answer, Tate Nashi sent a huge ball rolling toward them, forcing them to run again. They ended up hiding in a tight hallway. As Houki tried to explain what was really going on, Laura interrupted and started fighting her. They ended up ripping each other's clothes during the scuffle. They stopped when they saw the tower collapsing. Tate Nashi then opened the stage to every girl in the academy, announcing that anyone could join the crown battle. Ichika was now being chased by a giant mob of girls. As he ran for his life, Ryuko Makigami suddenly pulled him underground. She revealed that she'd come to steal his suit. She attacked him and transformed into her true self, an agent of the evil group called Lady Autumn. She lured Ichika into a fight to force him to activate his suit. Ryuko attacked relentlessly, using poison-based tech, but Ichika dodged every attack. When he asked her who she really was, she told him that she had been using a fake identity to get close. Her suit was incredibly deadly, built to infect others with venom. Ichika tried fighting back but couldn't land a hit. Eventually, he figured out her weak spot and slashed part of her armor. Just when he was about to win, she struck back hard and pinned him down, trapping him in sticky wires like a spiderweb. Then she tortured him with powerful electric shocks, laughing at how naive he was. She even confessed that her group had kidnapped him 15 years ago. As Ichika screamed in pain, Tate Nashi suddenly showed up and stabbed Ryuko through the body from behind. Ichika watched in shock. Meanwhile, the other girls were outside, trying to break into the sealed room. Lingyin spotted movement, and everyone rushed to join her. Cecilia saw the enemy suit and immediately launched an attack, but nothing worked. Ryuko was stunned to find out that the Tate Nashi she stabbed had turned into water. It was a decoy. The real Tate Nashi was still standing. She summoned her own water-based suit and blocked Ryuko's attacks with a powerful shield. Ryuko grew more furious and kept firing, but nothing worked. Tate Nashi even freed Ichika from the trap and the chaos. Ryuko lunged at her again and managed to slam her into a wall. She got close enough to explode Tate Nashi's suit, tearing it apart and trapping her in more nets. Ryuko was about to finish her off, but Tate Nashi warned her about the humidity. Water began leaking into Ryuko's suit, and it exploded from the inside. Ichika took the opportunity to attack with full power. But before he could deliver the final blow, Ryuko escaped through a hole in the wall. Tate Nashi told Ichika to follow her. Just then, a second enemy suit appeared, flying overhead. As Ichika approached, the mysterious pilot attacked without warning and crushed him with a powerful strike, launching him into a tower. As Ichika lay there, stunned, the mystery woman rescued Ryuko from the girls. Laura recognized the suit as a German model. The mystery woman shot an explosive at the ground, causing a loud blast and disappearing with Ryuko. Luckily, Tate Nashi protected everyone inside her water shield. Back at headquarters, Meyer and Chifuyu analyzed the two enemy suits. One had been stolen from England, and the other belonged to a group called Phantom Task. They figured both groups would return again to target Ichika's suit. Meanwhile, Ryuko scolded the mystery girl for interfering. She said she didn't need help and nearly completed her mission on her own. She almost stabbed the girl, but a woman named Squall stopped her and told her to calm down. The mystery woman walked away in silence, determined to get her revenge, now that she knew where Chifuyu was. Later that night, Tate Nashi told Ichika that this was why she had stayed close to him all along, to protect him. She smiled, happy she was able to keep him safe. Before she left to rest, she held up the crown from the earlier game and said, "This crown means I get to share a room with you." Ichika stood there, completely stunned. And that's where this video ends. Watch this following video until next time.
Take you Befriends.